scare is going to last, and how long that affects our world. This is not the first time this has ever happened on our planet, but maybe the first time in our lifetimes that it's ever happened, at least anything like this. But, so we really want to get in our mindset of how do we navigate the next 3, 6, 12, 18, maybe 24 months, of this business, and really start to think differently. And I believe that that gives us some tremendous opportunities here's the big if you can keep your sanity during the process. We're already starting to see this. I know a lot of people who are LA based that are moving home. And what that does is it does two things. It opens up some new spots for other people because they're going, I don't know how to navigate this business and I'm out of here. All right. And what that means is if you got the drive and if you got the dream, there's some new seats opened up for you in this business and new opportunity. And so people that were kind of on the fence, if they wanted to continue, are going to step out. So we just have to look at what the world is and be honest. There is a little bit of a thinning of the herd right now that I believe we can create a positive mindset with and find a place to navigate if we're willing to push through. Second thing that's happening here is that we're seeing new markets open up. LA just announced that, they're going to be, shut down till September with stay-at-home orders or something. And so guess what? Now, all of a sudden, you don't need to rush to LA. You can do things in Chicago, in Atlanta, in a place like Fayetteville, Arkansas. I mean, there's all sorts of markets that are now considerations, and even maybe your local area. And we'll talk about some things that you can be doing without moving at all in order to be able to really continue in this industry. I think that the number one thing I want to stress for everybody is this idea of perseverance. And perseverance is really going to be the thing that makes it or breaks it for you in this season of, the entertainment industry meets COVID. I can only imagine that in 24 months or so or less, we're going to see all sorts of movies about this time period and new scripts that have to do with this. And there's going to be those things that are coming out. But I think that perseverance right now is really what's going to make it or break it. And because a lot of you, how many people, just show of hands, that you feel like you're just kind of getting started in this business? Okay, we got quite a few of you. How many people feel like, hey, I've been doing this for a while, but I'm trying to break through a little bit better than I've been before? Okay, I got a couple of those guys too. All right, so, the thing I want to stress is that this is a great opportunity to develop your skills, to work your connections, and to really make sure that you're prepared for what happens next. I love the idea of a comeback. One of my mentors always says, he says, you have to be like a palm tree. The palm tree in a big wind and a hurricane, it bends, it bends, it bends, it bends, but it doesn't break, it bounces back. And that's really what we need, the mindset that we need to walk into this time period. And, you're not alone. It's not just happening to you. The whole world's here. So that means that you're not really set behind anybody else. And it's a great opportunity to keep working on your craft. This is also a great time to find mentors. People have, not everybody, but a lot of people have a little more time on their hands than normal, especially if they're in LA and they're still under a stay order. And so if you can be one of the lucky people to kind of navigate towards, maybe some key mentors that you can find. I just had the other day, and I won't overly name drop. And so, but I had the other day, a major celebrity who, my wife and I, we had mentioned on Instagram, and they mentioned us back and did like a little thank you. I don't know if that would have happened outside of a shutdown like this, because they don't have as much time on their hands when things are normal, but they're stuck in their house, especially being in Beverly Hills, and they can't leave. And so there's some ways to kind of what I call break through the membrane between those that are trying to make it in the entertainment industry and those who have fully arrived. And it's not just about getting a mention or getting a shout out. That might help your ego temporarily, but can you develop some real relationships with people? And they don't have to just be celebrities, but maybe industry professionals who can actually be willing to give you advice or some coaching, or, do a Zoom call with you to talk to you about where you're specifically at in your career, and maybe to help you navigate a little bit during this time. Something else that we're seeing, and I can, if people have questions about mentors at the end, go ahead and jot those down, or anything else you have questions about, and we can nail those here at the end. The other thing that you can look for is online classes. And that kind of goes in the same category. Obviously things like launch it's to be able to get in person, be able to get in front of these people. It's always the best answer, to get noticed. But when you're looking at how do I become a better actor, that's something that takes time, and it takes developing that really over a series of, months and years working on those things. And you can really work with a coach one-on-one and have them help coach you on acting, literally do reads back and forth with people, have them coach you over a Skype or a Zoom or a FaceTime. And there's people that you can find in LA and other markets as well and I'm sure that Lynn and Steve can recommend some of these people that would be excellent resources for you if you wanted to pay kind of an hourly and really work on your skills when you can't maybe show up to a group class the same way, depending on which market that you're in. Thankfully, some states are starting to open up. Obviously, we want to keep an eye on all of that. But, I think that some classes in that are 10 or less people and those things we'll start to see open up here over the next few months. Something else that, I think that this is a really great time for is, and I'll hit a few things in this, is independent production. Okay. Independent production. And basically what I mean by that is stepping outside of the major studios, and creating content, really within, whether it be in your local market or in a bigger city that's near you. And there's independent producers. I'm an independent producer. It's what I do. When we make a film, I'm not making a film attached to a big studio. We might get distribution. I've had distribution through Sony. I have distribution through Vertical Entertainment. But when I actually make the movie, I'm making that as a Miles Media picture. And so I'm finding those investors, I'm putting things together. And, there's movies, some of you guys, you look like you might be my age. You might remember this. There was a movie called The Blair Witch Project that was made for $18,000. And, you may or may not like the horror genre, and you don't have to make a horror movie, but you can. What that movie showed us is you can make a movie that could become nationally released and really internationally released and still be talked about. I mean, that was made in like 2000 or something. I don't even remember what year it was. Here we are 20 years later, and I just brought it up, and they made it for $18,000. And so, you might go, well, Lucas, I don't have $18,000, but there's producers that are starting to make content. And because, we all of a sudden, we're looking at kind of this global market for film. Now we have a bunch of little mini markets for film that are happening. And I think that people are going to start creating content in those smaller markets for less money. And some of the rules of movies and TV are changing. To see Jimmy Fallon at his house with his daughter walking across the screen, doing the Tonight Show is crazy. You never would have thought that would have flown. But now it's the new normal in terms of what TV looks like. So production value, and really YouTube opened up the door for this long before COVID. The production value, the acceptable production value is changing. And if you can find a way to still get good quality content, on a budget in your area, that's some pretty cool stuff that you're going to have happen. And we were going to do a screen share, and I'm just going to mention this for the sake of time because I want to give you as much information. If you head to our website, to Miles Media Films, after we're done, you can click on feature films, and you can see some of our trailers. One of the top ones is a reel that we did, and it was actually a former attendee from Launch. Maddie Zier is her name, and super talented actress. I think she's, I don't know if she's 12 or 13 years old now, and we shot a reel for her. So we did 3 different scenes, but those are all independently produced, and things that we put together. And so one thing that you can do, if you've never been cast in something, or you don't have, does everybody know what I mean when I say a reel? Let's see we got some yeses, most of that. Okay, we got a couple no's. Thanks for being honest. So a reel, what it is, as an actor, as you start doing more and more shows and films and those things. What an editor will do for you, and you have to hire this person typically, and or make friends with a director or an editor will do it, is you'll cut together a bunch of the clips that you were in, and you put that all together in a 1.5 or 3 minute, MP4 that, has your name in the front and your contact information and maybe your agent's info if you're signed. And then that becomes your reel. And so as casting people are looking at you, they'll say, can you send me your reel so I can see what you've done before and what you're capable of? So we did a reel for Maddie. Now, Maddie had done a few things, but she really didn't have the type of content that they wanted to showcase. So what they did is they came to me and they said, hey, can we produce some really small scale mini scenes to focus on, and we'll cut these together in a reel. Now there's a couple different schools of thought in this. Some people say, well, those weren't official projects, so I don't know if that should really be. And I say, pooey to that, because I think that anything that shows you doing what you do and acting is an official project. And so I'm not saying that you don't have to be deceptive and say, oh, this was a Sony picture. If you filmed it in your backyard, you can say this is something we produced on our own, but it's a way to showcase what you're capable of. So we picked a couple different character types that we wanted Maddie to play. And so we had her in more of a kind of like independent feeling, teenage, fun piece. We had something that was a little bit more like Stranger Things that she really wanted to do to kind of have superpowers. And so you have that in there. And then we had one that's a little bit more kind of sitcom, probably like a Lizzie McGuire style, where she's kind of got these thoughts in her heads and it bounced back and forth in there. And so, check that out. And if you don't have a reel, that's something that you could work on during this time. You don't have to hire a company like ours. You could literally start filming some scenes, in your house. I mean, people are shooting whole movies on new iPhones. And so you have a lot more options, and you don't always have to have a full crew in order to get started. So whatever you do, and if you don't listen to anything else that I say this entire time, hear this: don't do nothing. That is the number one thing I can tell you. Do something. If that's reading a book on acting, if that's watching other people's reels, if that's just watching Netflix, not just for enjoyment to go, I want to study this character and I want to see how Leonardo DiCaprio acts differently in all these films that he's in and how he draws this stuff out. But use your mind, think, use your connections, and really get outside of the box and start creating, get those juices flowing. Don't, if 12 months from now, the world is still like it is to some degree, and you haven't done anything to advance your career, I would say maybe this business isn't right for you. But I really believe that if you jumped on this call today, the business is probably right for you because you're already using this time to do things to build into yourself. And that's a great step. So congrats, kudos. We got Steve's silent golf clap over there with his screen muted for all of you. So, additional things is, maybe you want to take a hand at doing some script writing. And first of all, if you're doing your own reel, writing the scenes for your own reel is a great way to practice script writing, because you might just be writing something that's a page or two long. But, do some writing. And again, because some of these professionals have a little bit more time on their hand, maybe they'd be willing to read what you wrote and give you some feedback and some tips. And so I always say the best way into the business, if you want to be an actor, is to either be a writer and or producer as well. Because, sometimes you can write something and you could write your own part in. Or if you produce something, I've never introduced myself as an actor, but I have more film credits than a lot of the actors that audition for me, simply because I usually will put myself in a small scene in something that I produce. So as a producer, I have acting credits because I just like it. I grew up acting. I acted in high school. I acted in college. I was president of the Thespian Society at my school, went to a large high school, and competed at state. I did all those things, but I never saw acting as necessarily a career for me, but it's still something I enjoy. And so being a producer, I find ways to be able to carry that out and kind of scratch that itch a little bit. This is also a really good time to develop your social media. So I know for me, I've gained a couple thousand followers just over quarantine by doing things like Instagram Lives. So I've had a lot of my acting friends, some of my LA contacts and those things. I'll say, hey, let's do an Instagram Live together. And, it doesn't have to be maybe even somebody super well. Maybe it's somebody that you admire And you might reach out to them and say, can I interview you on an Instagram Live? And you write 10 questions and you ask them questions on an Instagram Live, and you get to leverage their followers. So an Instagram Live it'll tell their followers that they're on, and it'll tell your followers that you're on. And so it gives you a way to introduce yourself to kind of the world, maybe get a little bit more attention. And I think that's an underutilized platform for a lot of people. And what we're seeing with Instagram Live is you don't even kind of have to do much. I literally just the other day was walking my dog and got on Instagram Live, and I had like 15 people, jump on just to see what I was doing. And they stayed with me as I'm walking my dog. I mean, there's nothing really exciting about it, but a couple of them were like lived in Brazil. I don't even think they knew what I was saying. I don't speak any Portuguese at all, but it's exposure. And so as we're developing our craft, we also need to develop our platform. We see a lot of shows like the Goldbergs, which is one of my favorite. Any Goldberg fans out there? If you haven't seen the Goldbergs, it's worth it. Okay, Lynn says, I love the Goldbergs. It's a great show. I've been on the set in LA. It films at Sony. And the Goldbergs hire a lot of social media influencers for cameo appearances. And that's something we're seeing on other shows as well. So, it's interesting because these people don't have acting backgrounds. A lot of them aren't even great actors, but because they have 100,000 followers or 7 million followers, they're getting roles on programs. And so that's just an interesting thing to think about. So don't negate the social media side. Don't obsess with it. Don't freak out about it. But, it's a skill set that you develop over time, and it's never too late to start. If you want to check out my social media stuff, I'll give you my Instagrams. That's probably the best place to go right now, at Mr. Lucas Miles. So that's at Mr. Lucas Miles. Or you can go to at Miles Media Films, and that's with an S on the end. And just, hit me up on those and say, hey, I was on the Zoom call today. And you can do that. And in fact, just because I'm talking about social media, everybody smile. All right, we'll post you later, and we'll get you on that. So I think something else that you can do is work out. Okay, work out. First of all, it never hurts unless you want to embody kind of the Chris Farley type of acting, where a lot of body comedy, or we also see with Kevin James, kind of took that on for a number of years on King of Queens. But it really doesn't hurt in life to get in shape. And so it also helps your mind. It helps you avoid things like depression. And, we have to be really aware. Mental health, it was a big deal before. It's an even bigger deal now because we're seeing issues of mental health increase because people are, under these stay orders. They don't have as much access to other people. We're designed as people to be in community, to relate, to get those 7 hugs a day, to keep our positive attitude. And it's hard to do that right now during this time period. So working out is a way to boost those endorphins, get out there. And it also gets you physically in a place to where you can take on those roles. I did an interview with Devon Franklin, who started actually with Sony and was working under Will Smith for a number of years. And Devon is now a producer. He's produced some really big films. And as a fun fact, his office is on like the 13th floor of the Nakatomi Plaza building, which is the Die Hard 1 building that the whole movie takes place in. So that's literally where his office is. So I was super jazzed the first time I went there. I was like, I'm on the set of Die Hard right now. And so his wife is a well-known actress, and she really wanted to do. He tells a story how she really wanted to do an action movie, and she wanted to do some sort of action role. And she's saying this to him, and he was teasing her because she's sitting on the couch watching TV, talking about how she wants to do an action role. And he goes, babe, he's like, people that want to do action movies, like they got to do action stuff. Like you look at Tom Cruise, like he jumps out of planes, like he does crazy exercise stuff. He travels, he does all this sort of, physicality. And he's like, if this is something you really want to do, like you're going to have to step up your game to prepare yourself. Otherwise, you're going to have like stunt doubles the whole time and everything else. And so, he came home one day and she was just covered in sweat, was working out. He's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm going to be an action star. And so she ended up, going on it. She got cast in her first action thing. She's done a couple. She was actually in Shazam. She plays one of the characters as like the adult version of the characters, if you've seen that, one of the superheroes. And so she's done a few different things from there. But, you know, you have to kind of decide what direction you want to go in this business to some degree. You can always pivot. You can always do things differently. Some of you, imagine, might be, you know, more pursuing modeling, might be pursuing more acting. You might also be doing music or some crossover stuff. But, you know, don't ignore the side of it as getting your body prepared for that process. Something else, good opportunity is voiceover. So I got my little my Yeti microphone. These are hard to come by these days because everybody's buying them for Zoom calls. But you know, having a good audio setup is really key, and really making sure that you have a way to capture audio. I think we're going to see a lot more animated projects over the next 12 months. Okay. Because people can't show up to sets. They can't do big, you know, things. So what they're going to do is they're going to need voiceover talent. The entertainment industry isn't going anywhere. It's just going to have to pivot for a time. So start working on your character voices. You know, I don't know, I've done a little bit of voiceover work for commercial type of stuff, but I don't have like a bunch of, you know, everybody has weird voices in them. It's just working on them, you know? And so, you know, I mean, you just start playing with a microphone and get some headset and, you know, figure out if you got some voices, not the voices that make you crazy. You don't want those in your head. But the fun voices that really work on the talent and creative ways to be able to build characters, that's the kind of stuff that you can do. And I mean, you could work on that when you're taking a shower, you can work on that walking your dog, but you know, having a microphone to be able to really hear yourself, that's where I think you can develop some of those things. And you can also put together a reel, very similar to the acting reel, but it's a voiceover reel. So there's no video for it, but it's just the different characters that you would develop to give people an idea. You could read Pepsi commercials as, you know, some, you know, cartoon character that you develop in your mind. And that becomes a way to showcase your voice, and you could start submitting that. And there's all sorts of different voiceover platforms that you could go to. Or if you're working with an agent, obviously those become tools that help them to be able to get you out there a little bit more. So that's a quick overview of some of my top tips right now to really navigate and pivot during this COVID time. But I love questions and I work well off of questions. So if it's okay, Steve, I'm going to try to, you know, we'll open up here and see what kind of things can I speak to, or any specific questions that you have, whether it's something I talked about or something else that you're seeing that you want to know more about.
So maybe we can do this by physically like raising your hand, and we'll try to spot you, and then you can ask your question and unmute so it doesn't get too crazy. Who wants to ask a question? Amber, unmute. Let's get you unmuted.
All right. Hey, Amber.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to do it. I was like, wait, it's not working. Hi, I got two questions for you.
Okay.
So the first question is, what is the best way to get our reels out there, sent out there?
So, I mean, obviously the best way is to have an amazing agent that is just putting it in every decision maker's hand. I mean, that's still kind of the number one way to have that happen. But I think there are things that you can do. There's some people that don't like the reels on YouTube for whatever reason. I don't want to, you know, contradict somebody else. I personally like it. I think that having your reel out there is important. I see people that every email that they send out, if it's entertainment related, they'll put it at the bottom of their email, you know, so that people can see it there. And, you know, one thing that you could do, like if you're just made your reel and you're getting ready to send it out to somebody to look at, you know, have 100 of your friends or 50 of your friends or 25 of your friends look at it first, so that it gets a few views already, you know, so that somebody's not looking and being like, okay, I was the first person to just watch this. So that way you kind of like preload it with some views and get that out there. But I think, you know, sharing it periodically on your social media, you know, posting that to a Facebook and saying, hey guys, I just finished my reel, loved your thoughts, or, you know, any insight that you have on it, or which character was the favorite, you know, on this. And so you're asking some questions to get people to look at it, to give you feedback. And, you know, ultimately we want to get an agent with that, or we want to get it in front of decision makers. But I think that those are good places to start. Do you have another question you said?
Yeah, my second question is, I have Facebook, but I don't have Instagram yet. So what will be the best way to like kick off Instagram or other social medias?
So, I mean, there's a lot of great resources on YouTube or, you know, other blogs and those things on kind of the best ways to build your Instagram account. Instagram, I like it because it's very artistic focused, you know, so I think it does well for talent. I mean, and you can really take it any direction you want. You know, if you're a voiceover actor, Your Instagram might be every single, picture that you have or space that you have might be you doing, it might be a mini video of you doing a different character voice. If you're a voiceover actor, that would be a great, and you could do, hey, I'm voiceover Lucas Miles, as my handle, so that people see, that, and you can share it. But if you're just doing one for your general life, I think you want to showcase kind of, who you are. And I know for me as a talent scout, when I'm casting, the first thing that I do after I see their resume, after I see their reel, is I go to their social media. Why? I want to make sure they're not in a gang. I want to make sure it doesn't look like they've killed anybody. I want to make sure it looks like that, they're not going to get on my set and use profanity every single word and, cuss at the crew, the whole time. And, I want to see, is this person somebody that I want to work with? And so I don't like working with people that I don't want to work with, and so I'm looking for people that have character, integrity. And that's why it's important, if your social media, if you're like, well, I want my social media just to be me and I want to be able to do all these things on my social media, that's fine. That's your prerogative, but make it private if you're in business, because you don't want somebody to see, if you can't have your mom look at your social media page, or if you can't have, a talent scout look at your social media page, then you probably should question whether or not it should go on there or not. And I can tell you, I've not hired people before where they were the better actor, they had the better material, the better agent, but I looked at their social media, I was like, that's too big a risk. And I went with somebody else that was probably the second choice, and that person never knew they were the second choice. But, I feel like in the end, I got a better deal.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep, for sure. Who else? All right. Steve, I'll let you pick.
I think we have Shaquila.
Hey, Shaquila.
Hey.
Where are you at? Where are you from?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay, awesome. All right, what's your question?
So my question is, you were talking about reels, and that was my first time knowing about reels whatsoever. I have absolutely no acting experience, but I aspire to be. So in the reels, you said it has to be a minute long. Do you prefer a professional videographer to shoot the reels, or can we just shoot it from our phone? And
great question. So there's some generally accepted concepts when it comes to reels. Most of the ones I see are anywhere between 90 seconds and 3 minutes. Okay, so that tends to be the length. If you don't have something that is to some degree professionally shot, what I would recommend is not doing don't make a scene in the sense of, I'm trying to recreate a movie or some sort of, film. Instead, I would put together a reel of you doing basically reads. Okay. So you're going to, you're memorizing maybe a short monologue, or you're memorizing some sort of thing. And instead of trying to shoot it like a movie or a TV show, just stand with a plain backdrop and deliver that to camera so people get a feel for you. I think if it's going to be really low production value, like you're going, I'm not a videographer at all, then just put an iPhone on a tripod, light yourself the best you can, and just read, kind of, when I say read, I mean, ideally you have it memorized, but do some sort of monologue to camera. And you could send out 3 monologues, to a decision maker of some sort in the business, if you don't have kind of that official read. So don't feel like you have to put in, thousands of dollars if you're not at that place in order to shoot something well, to do it. I think something is better than nothing. But what we don't want is, so I was doing this and I was, and just, you don't want something that's going to make, if you feel like somebody's going to puke watching it, probably don't send it. So they don't want to get motion blur, when they're watching a reel, because it's you walking around with your cell phone. So, at least get a tripod. You can pick up a cheap one on Amazon for $15 that holds your cell phone, and then just memorize, and it can even be, it could be a monologue from a favorite movie that you have, if you're just, sending this to people as a decision maker, and you can do, a scene from Good Will Hunting or whatever, how do you like them apples, kind of thing. And that becomes, a resource for you. Who else? Is it Tamara?
I'm looking on my grid. Where are we? Oh, there you are, Tamara. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, in a reel, do you want a separate commercial reel and then a film reel, or can you put a commercial in your film reel?
You're getting fancy. I think that in a perfect world, I mean, people that are doing this every single day and this is their main source of income would typically have those separated if they've done enough work in order to necessitate it. You know, if you've only done, you know, one film, one commercial, and one thing that you shot in your backyard, that's your reel right now. And so I would, you know, don't worry so much about breaking the rules. I think early on, just showcase the best way you can what you have. When you've done 5 commercials, then it's probably time to have a separate commercial reel from your, you know, dramatic reel, you know, or comedic reel, you know. And so if you've done this, you know, if you thought about a guy like Denzel Washington, how much stuff would be on his reel, you know, so you got to, at some point you have to start picking and choosing. Like if you've done 12 films, you might only show 3 or 4 of them in a reel, you know, to be able to highlight that. But I think as you get a bigger body of work that you've done, then you can separate those. Here's my dramatic, here's my comedic, you know, here's my commercial. But I think initially, if you're just starting off, use what you have in order to be able to get that time stamp with your best quality stuff.
Okay, so West, like a small Midwestern start to go from a marketing area to the bigger, it's okay to have the mixture.
I think so. And I mean, the reality is that most people outside of what I would call industry towns won't know the difference. And they'll just think it's really cool that you have a reel of your stuff. You know, so if you're sending this to a local advertising agency, most of them, you know, we do commercial advertising for everybody from manufacturers to, you know, tire companies and everything else. But those guys don't know anything about reels. So I have a client right now that wants to look at talent. And I'm just, you know, I've told people, hey, if you don't have a reel, just shoot something on your cell phone real fast of just you reading these lines. You know, they don't know the difference. And so, and I don't say that because they're, you know, I don't mean that they're not intelligent. I just mean they're just not exposed to those things. And so start with where you can and just build it from there. Who else? Is it Lavard down here? He's on the bottom for me.
Lavard, are you there? All right, here we go. Lavard.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing, guys? I want to start off by thanking you, Mr. Steve, Mr. Lucas, for hosting.
Absolutely.
This question goes to Mr. Lucas. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For your production, what is the percentage of you taking non-union to union actors?
Oh, great question. So, I mean, if you're outside of LA, it's super high non-union over union. Okay. We would almost never hire union talent for local commercial work. There's exceptions to that. You know, if it's a bigger, you know, if you were shooting a Lexus commercial, it's going to be union talent. If you're shooting, you know, some really bigger national pieces, but a lot of things that, you know, in local markets are, you know, it's the local flower shop needs a commercial. If you say, do you want union talent or non-union talent, and ask them, they're going to be like, what's the difference? You know, they won't even know. So, you know, they're usually going to say, who's the cheapest, you know? And so a lot of times just because of people's budgets and the exposure, you know, I'm about 90 miles from Chicago is where I'm at. So there's union people I can pull in. We've certainly used them before. Now a feature film is different. You know, feature films, all of our big talent are union. You know, we usually do a hybrid contract with SAG-AFTRA, which is the actors union. If you're not familiar with that, that would allow us at our budget level to hire union and non-union talent. But, you know, all of our name talent are union. And so my recommendation, I think most people's recommendation, is stay non-union as long as you can, and then jump to union when you have to. And so if you can get to a point to where, you know, probably the best place to be is a really crazy sought after union actor. Okay. That's the best place to be. The second best place to be is a really sought after, SAG eligible actor who has the ability to do projects on both sides of the fence and can easily bounce over to being union once something comes up that's big enough to grant that. This is not my specialty in that side of it. You know, I can talk it, but there's definitely people that are more qualified, you know, even within launch that could probably help you more on that. But that's my general take on it.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
For sure. Yeah. Who else?
I think we have time for a couple more. Let's go with G. Dot.
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
guys?
how's it going?
Going well. It's Janique.
Janique, where are you from, Janique?
I'm in Oklahoma.
Okay. All right. I've driven through.
Have driven
I
through
have.
but kept going.
I have. Yes. Tell me what's your question today.
So my question is, what is it that casting crews look for when auditioning for a part that the person auditioning normally wouldn't think of?
It's funny. This is probably one of the questions that I get the most, and I feel like I have the least helpful answer for, because it's always so different. And there's multiple factors. First of all, I think it's important from a psychology standpoint to remember that people you make an impression very quickly. And, there might be somebody who got on this call and said, hey, his hair's too tall. And I know it's too tall. I'm getting it cut on Friday. I just haven't been able to get there yet. Okay. And you might have made an opinion about me very quickly, and so, everybody's walking in with a different lens or a bias or a filter that they have. And so, it's important to show up, in either a way that's going to make you memorable without making you look crazy. Okay. So, that you don't want to just blend in and be anybody else. You want to, stand out a little bit, but you don't want to make it seem like you're going out of your way to draw too much attention to yourself. So that's a very fine line, I think, in casting. The other side of that is that it's important to remember that what you're competing with when you're going to an audition is not the person sitting next to you waiting to go into the room. The person you're competing with the most in an audition is the idea that casting director or that team of casting people have in their heads for that particular role. And so, and you can't know that in advance. It might be that when you read the script or the section of script, you had somebody in your mind of who you tried to become, but because they were reading the whole film, they had a whole different personality in mind, and you just didn't hit it, when you came in. And so I think it's really easy to drive yourself crazy with castings. And I think the best thing to do is go in there, hi, my name's Lucas Miles. I'm here to audition for this role today. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity. And then you let them really decide. Some people, my castings are very personal. I like talking to people. I like, tell me where you're at, tell me what's going on. I want to know who I'm working with. Other castings are very number 42, and you come in and you do your thing. Okay, thank you. And you walk out. And you kind of just have to read the room and, have enough emotional intelligence to be able to navigate that. But I think you just focus on being you, doing the best delivery that you have, and then, being polite. If you mess up in the middle of it, very simple to be able to ask, hey, would you mind if I started from the top again? And just try to see, and appeal to them based upon, you just being a shining star.
Cool. I think we'll take one more. And if anyone else afterwards has additional questions, you can email me. I'm the Steve at Launch Showcase that you all get emails from. And I can forward them on to Lucas for you. And then, of course, you can ask him questions in person when you meet him.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I hope to be there. And then also, if you got other stuff, you can hit me up on social media, too, from that standpoint. But
right.
Launch is obviously the best way to go through that. So who else?
Matt Blanks, you're the winner.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going? How's it going, everyone? Hope we're all, being safe and stuff. But I had a multi-part question.
Yep.
It was about the back to the film reels and stuff.
Yeah.
And earlier you had mentioned that the levels of media are changing, like of what's becoming acceptable.
Yep.
And so I was curious, you did mention, you don't want to give someone a video that's going to make them throw up, but do you think like a vlog could be effective in sort of branding yourself and sufficing for a film reel or commercial reel?
I would say to start with, and it sounds like you might have a second part to that question, but I think to start with, it depends on the genre that you're looking for. Okay. I don't think that we're going to see, there's two things that are happening. Camera and equipment costs are going down, and the quality that those cameras are shooting on for a lower dollar point are going up. So, camera, and I don't have one that I could grab right now, but I'm in my studio right now. We got cameras in the room next door. I could grab a camera in there that probably costs $4,000, but it's shooting what a camera, man, 10, 20 years ago, that camera would have cost $100,000 in order to get that type of quality or anything near that type of quality. So, the point of entry is lowering for people to come in. And so, you can spend $2,000 or $3,000 and get a really great, what I would call prosumer camera that you can do a lot of stuff on. If you're wanting to go into, in forms of media, like to be a host, not everybody wants to be an actor, but they want to be a host. That's where that quality, that production value, I should say, it still needs to be quality, but that production value is dropping because we're seeing people, we're seeing news reporters filming for their living room, and don't be like the guy who did the interview and forgot to wear pants and you could see his knees in the interview. So make sure you dress the whole part because you don't know what that camera width is going to be. But you can, I think if you like that personality style, you see yourself maybe a hosting type of role in some form, then I think a vlog type of thing could be really cool as a way to get to know you. It's not going to replace, a great acting, reel down the road, but it's a starting point. A show that I like right now that's, I think, got super great production value, and it's just very refreshing, is actually Outer Banks on Netflix. I don't know if anybody's watching that. It is superb. It's casted brilliantly. It's well done. It kind of feels like this adult Scooby-Doo, type of feel to it. And it's thrilled. My wife and I are watching it. We're like halfway through the season. So if you know who did what, don't tell me. But it's really well done. That production value is always going to be sought after, but we can just get to that point at a lower dollar we can arrive there at a lower dollar point than what it took 5 years ago or even 2 years ago.
Cool. That kind of answered the second part of my question. So thank you.
Yeah.
The point is to start now. Cause I was just going to mention, I think it'd be cool to see the production value of the vlog also, evolve as well as the actor.
Yes.
I think that's kind of cool.
There's some people, there's some great YouTube. YouTube just has so much creativity on it right now. There's some YouTube artists that are really changing the game of what vlogs look like. And there's people that are vlogging their whole, quarantine and self, stays and everything else. But I think that, you got to get creative. And here's the reality. Somebody's going to invent the next genre. Somebody's going to invent that next thing. I don't know if anybody's doing this yet. At some point, websites are all going to be VR. And you're gonna, if you want to go find out about a company, you put on the VR thing and you can walk through the factory and you can see what they're doing. You can turn around and, I've had an idea. We need somebody to go we need somebody to host websites now. Hey, welcome to this website. I'll be your virtual host during this time period. Follow me if you want to go this way. Follow me if you want to go this way. And there's just gonna be new stuff that comes out that's gonna be fresh that nobody's fully doing yet. And I think that, why not you? Why not one of you here on this call thinking about what that could be and changing the game here? There's a lot of people that I have no idea where everybody's at in their lives or your finances or your, the support that you got behind you. But you know what? There's a million stories out there of people that had very, very, they didn't, on paper, it didn't look like it should ever happen. And because of I always say it takes grace plus hustle. If you can put those two things together, you can make this whole thing happen. So I'm excited for you guys. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to just be able to share with you today. I can't wait to, I hope one of these days you go, I get to see you famous someplace and I'm like, hey, I think they were on my Zoom call during the self-quarantine time period. So hopefully if I've helped you in any way, that brings a lot of joy to me. But you guys keep, relying on resources like Steve and Lynn, and you're going to meet a wonderful launch family, even beyond the people here on this call in September. So I'm just excited for all of you as you go through that. So, and Steve and Lynn, thank you again for having me on this today.
All right. Thanks, Lucas. Hey, everyone. Well done. Great questions. Hopefully you have your marching orders and got some ideas of what you're going to start doing tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll give you till tomorrow to start if you haven't already.
I'm not. You got to start today. You got to get that happening.
I don't know where you are in the country, but it's dinner time for me. You got to eat some food. Listen, everyone, we're going to send this out to everyone in an email by tomorrow morning, and we have our previous calls recorded, and they are on our YouTube channel, Launch Showcase. So if you haven't had a chance to watch those, go ahead and do it. Lucas, you are wonderful. We appreciate you so much. Continued success to you, and we look forward to seeing some of your projects. Everyone go visit his website.
Yeah, milesmediafilms.com. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And best of luck to you as you keep the hustle going. Everybody stay safe.